Hello, welcome. My name is Constantine George, and the purpose of this demonstration in the spreadsheet is to use PivotTable's Power View and dashboards to take this massive amount of arriving flight data provided by the U.S. Department of Transportation and transform it into meaningful yet simple charts and tables. The objective of organizing this data is to study airport and carrier performance among the largest airports and carriers in the United States. The size of airports and carriers in terms of this demonstration is with regards to passenger volume. The larger the passenger volume, the larger the airport and carrier is. Passenger volume data was found on Wikipedia. My Excel table here has data with regards to year, month, carrier, airport, the number of arriving flights, the number of flights delayed by either the carrier, weather, national aviation system, and security. It also gives me a count of the number of arrivals arriving late, how many were canceled, and how many were diverted. In addition, it gives me the total number of delay minutes of the total operation. Now, I'm not going to use all this data for my analysis. My objective is to analyze airport and carrier performance among the 10 busiest airports with respect to passenger volume in the U.S. during the holiday season, namely November, December from the years 2010 and 2014. I'm not going to use all the data I have dating back to 2003 or 2004. Now, to do this, I have to have filter. And to filter, what I'm going to do is I'll select year, and you notice in the header here, I have an icon, and I can filter right from the icon. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect everything and select only the years that I want, 2010 to 2014. Take those, select them, select OK, and you notice a filter here under year starting at 2010. And you notice the icon changed to the filter icon as well, which is different from the non-filter icon. Now, if I don't like these filters for some reason, I can clear it. I can select the icon, clear filter from year, and then everything will revert back to its original form, including the icon itself. Now, I can construct pivot tables. Pivot tables are valuable in that they help organize large amounts of data into a meaningful final summary in a readable format. I have two pivot tables. My first pivot table will illustrate the airports with the highest and lowest percentage of non-on-time arrivals. My second pivot table will illustrate whether carriers with the most arriving flights at these two airports found in the first pivot table improved their on-time arrival performance from 2010 to 2014 during the holiday season. To create a pivot table from an Excel tab, I simply go to Insert Pivot Table, and I would ask it to insert the pivot table in a new worksheet, which I call Pivot Table 1 tab. And in this tab, before anything's built up, you find an empty pivot table report area on the left and a pivot table field pane on the right used to build the pivot table. I built this pivot table by dragging year, month, carrier name, airports, and others into this drop zone below to construct this pivot table, which grew with what I put in here. Now, to add a slicer to the pivot table, I would go to Pivot Table Tools, Analyze, and I would simply insert a slicer. And I made this slicer here on the bottom right regarding airport name. Now, from the pivot table, I can also create a pivot chart or a graphical representation of the pivot table. Select the cell on the pivot table, and then I would go to the Pivot Table Tools Analyze tab and then select Pivot Chart and choose a chart to my liking, and this is the chart that I like. Now, once I add this chart, I can go to Chart Elements, and I can go to Chart Styles and change the elements or the visual descriptions of what I want to see in the chart here, mainly colors. Now, as I said before, a slice is another way to filter data in an Excel table. Slicers and pivot tables are the most helpful feature on this project. Let me show you how to make a slicer in an Excel table. So I would go to the Table Tools Design tab. I would insert a slicer. Now, what I want to filter is the month. So I'd select month because I want the months November and December during the holiday season. Right now, it doesn't give me any filter. It gives me from January, February. So once the slicer pops up, it'll pop up over the data just like this. And I want to filter just for November and December. So I select these 2 months. And you notice when I filter it, also under the header for month, it filters using 11 and 12 as well, November and December, and you notice the icon changed as well to filter. So in the first pivot table, I want to determine which of the top 10 busiest airports have the greatest and fewest percentage of non-on-time arrivals. Again, I found the top 10 from Wikipedia, and the list is here. Atlanta is the busiest, Phoenix the 10th busiest, and in order to find out this information, my objective, I made a table to calculate the total percentage of arriving aircraft which were late, canceled, and diverted. All of this is the total sum of the years 2010 to 2014 from the months November and December, the holiday season, directly from the pivot table. The airport with the highest and lowest percentages in the airports is what I will study in Pivot Table 2. The chart on the bottom displays my filter results. The yellow line is the total number of arriving flights. The blue bars are the total number of aircraft arriving late. The red bar are the total number of canceled, and a gray line hovering the x-axis is the number diverted. To do this, I want to make sure the carrier name is selected for all, to display all carriers. And then either using the filter here or the slicer, I want to find each of the 10 airports and their total percentage. And I can tell you ahead of time that San Francisco had the highest delays at 10.89%, and the one that had the lowest was Charlotte. So I'll show you for Charlotte. I go to the slicer here, and I type in Charlotte, North Carolina, find it, select OK, and I would notice the percentages go from 10.89 to 5.86. So Charlotte was the lowest. So I'm going to take these two airports and work with them in the second pivot table, where I want to determine whether the largest carriers at those two airports, namely San Francisco and Charlotte, have had their delays ease, stay the same, or worsen from 2010 to 2014 during the holiday season of the months November and December. Now, I have for a pivot table for total minutes delayed caused by the carrier, slicers for year, month, and carrier name on the top, a filter for the airport name on the top left, a pie chart on the bottom, and column and line spark lines under the total minutes delayed per year to help me determine the trend of delays over time. If I didn't trust spark lines, I can also tell the trends based on the data here in the pie chart. Now, I know that in San Francisco, the largest carrier of arrival flights is United Airlines, so I would select United Airlines. And also from the filter, I would choose San Francisco. Select OK. And now I will notice the trend of delays, the total minutes delay from 2010 to 2014, and they do increase over time, especially from 2013 to 2014, 2010 to 2014. So in San Francisco, one of the busiest airports with the largest percentage of non-on-time arrivals, the delays get worse over time. And similarly, let me check it out for Charlotte. So I'm going to filter for Charlotte, North Carolina, type OK. I notice the largest carrier of arrival flights is U.S. Airways into Charlotte, so I do that. And I notice not as bad of a trend as San Francisco, but still lately in 2013, 2014, and especially from the line chart, the delays get worse as well. So for those two airports, regardless of whether they're efficient or not, the delays have gotten worse over time. Now, I'm going to show you some Power View. Power View is similar to pivot tables that it allows us to display charts, tables, and slices in one dashboard window. All the components in Power View are linked together, so they all work together and respond to any filtering and slicing you perform. To make it Power View in Excel, I would go to the Power View tab and simply select Power View. Also, in the fields, I can build a dashboard here by dragging the fields from the field list down to the field drop zone. And then in this area here, I have a table form. Now, to make Power View in Excel, I would go to the Power View tab like I showed you before. And now to make the chart, I would go to the Design tab and choose whatever chart I want here. And I felt that this chart was the best for the data that I had to present. Now, in the first Power View chart, of the 5 busiest carriers here in the United States and of the 10 busiest airports in terms of passenger volume, I want to find out which carrier has the most uniform distribution of delays. Now, I filtered the top 10 busiest airports, the top 5 busiest carriers, the month being greater than 11, which indicates November and December, and the years 2010 to 2014. And I can probably see that American Airlines and Delta Airlines have more colors than the other 3. This means that these carriers flew to more of the top 10 airports than ExpressJet, SkyWest, and Southwest did. Nonetheless, we see the most even distribution of delays with Southwest, as the total delayed minutes were about the same amount of time in all the airports it served, unlike American and Delta, where the majority of their delays were in a single airport. Despite these delays, Southwest is the most consistent, so you will know what delays to expect with little variation at the airports it serves. Now, in the second Power View chart, I'm trying to determine what is the major cause of these delays during the holiday season. Is it due to the carrier themselves? Is it due to the weather? Is it due to the national aviation system? Or is it due to security? You can see the filters that I have here when I display them, that all are the same with the exception of a few of them, which include the weather, the national aviation system, security, the sum of all those flights that I didn't have in the first Power View. So I added those filters as well, and I can see here from the results that Southwest has the highest blue bar, which means it has the most room for improvement because these are carrier delays, and the carrier delays are controlled by the airline itself. Southwest and any other airline would have a difficult time trying to control the weather and the security, for example. So Southwest has the most room for improvement. Now, overall, these pivot tables, these Power View and dashboards provide valuable insight into many business operations, most notably the airline industry. Thank you for watching.